Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope your experience is fruitful. Please feel free to visit our website to find out how you can join our growing family. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. Also, share so others may enjoy as well. And we hope you would consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. Alright, let's start the show. What's going on, Mavericks? We're back with another episode of The Unusual Mavericks. I'm your host, Kwame, joined by the handsome, the bearded one, Just Dominic.
Hey, everybody. It is good to be back.
Yes, we have a great show lined up for you. But before I do that, I just want to let you guys know that we have a Patreon special coming tomorrow. I want you guys to know I'm announcing it here first, exclusive. It's called California Horror Story, and it's one night only. So definitely tune in. Make sure you sign up for Patreon. It's going to be one you don't want to miss.
Ooh, wow.
Anywho, yes, indeed. That's right. Let's go ahead and do that one more time.
Greasy.
California Horror Story. Tomorrow.
Sounds greasy.
Yes. Get on in to the Patreon so you can find out what's going on and the truth behind the lies. Amen. All right. Let's get back into the show. Praise God.
Wow.
And you never know who may show up.
That's true.
What's going on, Michelle Holly? Thank you so much for joining. Michaela, how are you, little sis? Appreciate you guys. Pyromaniacs in the building. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Share if you haven't done so, and subscribe. That's right, subscribe if you haven't done so. Let's get some music on in here. I forgot to hit the music button. There we go. A little lo-fi.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. We got a lot to get to. I'm really excited for this episode, Dominic. First of all, kudos to you. You have produced the hell out of this show. Really, you have deep dive into the research, sir. And so I'm really excited. Where's my notes? I have to go grab it.
To get your notes.
Yes, I have to get my notes. It's actually in my planner, which is right behind me. Hold on one second. But yes, I'm really excited about this. Tell us a little why if you're excited about it.
Well, Dwayne McDuffie is a powerhouse. Someone who really honestly changed the animation game. He changed the comic book game. He is a force to be reckoned with, and may his soul rest in peace.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate you. Yes. All right, so let's go ahead and get into some things here. First up, we got to talk about. Let's just get on into the Maverick alert, y'all.
Yes.
It's a lot to talk about. It's a whole hot mess. So let's get right on into it. All right, y'all. So the Maverick alert, or today's Maverick alert, is a lot. So bear with us. First up, we have some breaking news, and that is right on regarding Doom Patrol. If you guys have been following the show, it had stopped abruptly in the middle of its season, and we were supposed to have a return for it. I think a couple of weeks after it had stopped. I think it was around the same time that Titans had finished on Max, and so we were awaiting Doom Patrol to come back, but it didn't, and then we heard nothing back from it. So fortunately, we have gotten news today that Doom Patrol is coming back. What was it, October 6th?
October 12th.
12th, thank you so much.
October 12th on Max.
On Max, yes, indeed. What are your thoughts on this? What did you hear about the...
I'm really excited about it. After seeing the trailer drop just a little more than an hour ago.
Mm-hmm. And we're only going to show a couple of seconds, guys, because you know how it is.
Everyone has returned. Everyone has returned. The professor has returned, which I'm really happy to see Timothy Dalton reprise his role as the professor. And it looks like all of our series favorites are are definitely being featured in this, and so is Brandon Fraser outside of the mask, the robot man, as we see who's up front, and then the mummy looking guy as well. The actor behind him will also really be featured in this final back half of the fourth season. So I'm really excited about it, because this show, if anybody followed the comic book or this series, number one, it has been around, I believe, since the late 60s, and it has always featured drag queens and queer people from its conception. And so to see this show come to life was a rare treat. Now, it wasn't what we normally see the Doom Patrol as, so this is definitely a adaptation. But regardless, it was really exciting to see a lot of those old storylines come to life. I really love this series.
Yeah, one of my favorite characters who happens to be on the far right-hand side is Jane. She's just one of my favorite characters. She's really dope. But I definitely really was looking forward to seeing the rest of the half, and I thought the rest of the season, because I mean they had announced and told us that this is going to be the final season, unfortunately, and I thought that they weren't going to bring it back because there was no talk about it. There was quiet. Everything was like, there was just no response to it, and so I just thought that they were just going to end it where it was. But I'm happy that they didn't, and that they're going to at least finish it off. I think they should continue it, but you know how it is, budgets and all that stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like because there was such of a pause, it sounds like they got everyone in that they wanted to. With scheduling and they were able to do all of this and wrap on anything and everything before the strike began. So, yeah, I'm excited.
I'm very excited about it. All right, well, we're looking forward to Doom Patrol, and we're definitely going to be doing Doom Patrol the series and a recap on our podcast. So definitely check that out when it drops. Next is Batgirl. Whew, Batgirl. So
what's going on with Miss Batgirl?
So why did Batgirl get canceled? What happened to the unreleased superhero movie? Lots of DC fans are asking DC Studios to release the film in any format, whether it be streaming or what have you. So what happened was that, according to multiple outlets, Batgirl's hefty budget wrapped up to about $90 million by the time it entered post-production. The original release date was intended for the end of 2022 by Warner Brothers and its subsidiaries HBO Max and DC. The character Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, was portrayed by actress Leslie Grace, who is this young queen right here. And let's see. And the movie was set to include the return of Michael Keaton's Batman as a preview of 2023's The Flash. Early screenings of Batgirl tested higher than The Flash and compared to Blue Beetle. Was the studio decision sexist? Nevertheless, the studio announced in August 2022 that Batgirl would not be released, according to multiple outlets. Warner Brothers canceled the movie to cut costs, and because of its new direction to be more selective and theatrical releases. Additionally, DC Studios defended its choice by claiming that, quote, the film was not meant for theaters and below standards, end quote. 1 year after Batgirl was abandoned, fans are still demanding answers from DC Studios. Making Batgirl trend again this week, co-chair Peter Safran explained this week in a statement what led to the unprecedented decision. Though he noted that DC plans to include the character in their story, meaning Peter Safran and Peter Safran and James Gunn, the studio executive defended the reason for this film's cancellation. Quote, on the Batgirl front, I saw the movie and there was a lot of incredibly talented people in front of and behind this camera on that film, Peter explained, before adding, but that film was not releasable, and it happens sometimes. The film was not releasable. I actually think that President and CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, David Zaslav, and the team made a very bold and courageous decision to cancel it because it would have hurt the new DC franchise. It would have hurt those people involved. Now, what are your thoughts on this, Dominic?
Well, I thought it was interesting that when you go on, Peter added that this Batgirl movie would not have been able to compete in the theatrical market, but was built for the small screen. Duh, we always knew that. It was built for HBO Max or Max. It compared to a CW movie. Here was a biracial Batgirl, right? She was biracial. We had never seen this adaptation of this character. When he said that it was on par with the CW, it's like, but the CW made you and Netflix billions of dollars and still making you money. So I don't quite understand. Hey.
Yeah. What's going on, Keith? Thanks for joining, King. I don't think what's frustrating for me is that like they gave this whole kind of BS story about like, you know, it wasn't releasable and that it was not like, you know, what was expected. Like I just
it looks like Leslie, she spoke out to say something which stoked fires, right?
In February 2023, Batgirl star Lisa Grace weighed in on the DC co-chair's not releasable comment during her interview with Variety. She noted, "The film that I got to see was incredible. There was definitely potential for a good film, in my opinion. Once The Flash hit theaters, Batgirl's directors Adil El Arbi, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing their name, and Bilal Fallah admitted to Insider that they were sad upon watching it since their film would have set the stage for Batman's on-screen return. Though Adil and Bilal emphasized their love, the director and DC studio heads, however, the Flash, the filmmaking duo, felt they could have been part of the whole thing. We didn't get the chance to show Batgirl to the world and let the audience judge for themselves," Adil added, "because the audience really is our ultimate boss and should be the deciders of if something is good or bad, or if something should be seen or not. Both Batgirl and Batman will be recast for the new DC universe, but there are several lessons that fans require for the new Caped Crusader can learn from Ben Affleck's DCEU version." So I'm frustrated with it.
I agree with. I honestly agree with what. Who wrote this? This article came from Variety, I believe. I totally agree with what Variety is saying. That there are tons of lessons that this new DC universe has to learn from the Caped Crusader. Ben Affleck's Batman. They didn't release this Batgirl, and I agree with what the directors are saying now. Seeing that the Flash was a flop, it cost $200 million. Why couldn't they have written off $200 million and released this movie that would have cost clearly half as much?
Yeah, and probably still have a whole thing behind it. Like if it was supposed to prep the return of Batman or Michael Keaton's Batman, because I felt like Michael Keaton's Batman was still kind of out of place in The Flash, and I felt like that would have made sense to do that. And on top of that, if it was going to be made for streaming anyway, because remember, Batgirl was filming during the pandemic. Or not during after the shutdown. Right. But like that whole thing was being filmed and planned during that time, so it was already being delayed and all that stuff, and it was already being focused on that. This is going to be a situation that's going to be on streaming only, and they had originally were planning on that. And so for me, it's like if you've already made it, it's already cut, dressed, and released to go. Just release it because you would have recouped extra money anyway. You didn't even have to do major advertising. You could have just put it on. Because a lot of the
this is what fans are saying,
because a lot of the the animated stuff, they don't get major advertisement on for the animated show, and they bring in a crap ton of money for DC. So you could have just dropped it and called it this, say, "Hey girl, we're putting it on Max," and we would have watched it.
I totally agree. I do understand that this movie probably was more PG-13. As I said, it was more CW friendly. But what a lot of people don't realize is that this is the type of movie that kids parents will flop their kids down in front of.
Yeah.
And put this on because it's safe.
But
it's
also,
a safe movie for families. Family-friendly movies end up raking up a lot of cash.
Yeah, but I didn't see anything in Blue Beetle that was like super pornographic. Like, so I don't understand why it wasn't a big deal.
I agree. That's what fans are saying. Hey, if you release Blue Beetle and you put more money into Blue Beetle to make it, the success that it was, why didn't you do that with Batgirl or just release it? You didn't have to release it in theaters, but people really still wanted to see this. And for the directors to start weighing in is very interesting to make Peter Safran speak up over the past few days. This is pretty fresh and new for him to say again, no, they made the right decision. Now, let's play devil's advocate. I understand what Peter is saying. The Flash movie was to wrap up the DCEU, the Snyderverse. He completely ended that whole universe and that journey. He can't even get back to his own universe. So I understand why they wanted to wrap up the universe before the rebirth, starting with Blue Beetle. But I think they really thought the Flash was going to make money.
I'm sure
the question about the three movies that they had towards the end, Momoa's movie, okay, right? Blue Beetle, and the Flash. The only movie that got canceled was the female-led film.
Yeah,
a minority female too. It just makes you go,
Well, we've had these issues with minority-led stuff anyway. So, Blue Beetle didn't get as much advertisement as The Flash, in my personal opinion. So, I mean, that was that, and it made more than The Flash, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So, and it tested better than The Flash. So, I'm not surprised.
So they said this movie is completely done, right? It's post-production. It's done.
It should have. It was good. It was just that Ezra's a mess. No, I think I watched. I think Just Dominic and I saw the movie, and so I felt like there was still some visual issues, in terms of production wise, animation was a little weird. Now, Blue Beetle was everything. Blue Beetle was like, oh, this is where you guys are going with stuff. But The Flash, I still didn't think. As far as a movie was concerned, I still thought that Blue Beetle was a superior movie in my.
But do you know what though? Over the past month, The Flash was the number one streamed movie. Okay, between all of the franchises, including Disney, it was streamed more than Guardians of the Galaxy and Wakanda Forever. But it was.
Right, because one of the major issues, Dominic, that I believe that why it did so well on the streaming platform is because people don't want to go and pay $50, $60, $70 to go to the movie theaters a pop every time they go see a movie. Because now it's getting more expensive to go see a movie especially if you have a family of 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 or whatever, or you bring
we just talked about this concerning The Little Mermaid, which they considered a theatrical flop as well.
Right.
Now, it is also the highest streamed movie on Disney Plus, I believe, of all times. So it broke records. And so it's making money. And I think a lot of these studios need to understand, because they said The Flash was a flop. But now it's making money on the streaming platform, and it's no longer in the negative. Now it's starting to make a profit. Little Mermaid, the same thing. She's streaming so well that a lot of people didn't go out to see it, because you and I talked about they release a bunch of movies at the same time, so you have to pick and choose.
Michelle says, my supervisor told me his wife and child went to the movies and it cost $100. Yeah, it's expensive. It's expensive, and we're only talking about general admission. We're not even talking about those specialty theaters like IMAX, or even those those dine-in theaters, or any of those things like that. It's expensive now to go to a movie theater because now you don't get that extra popcorn, large popcorn refill. Because I know a lot of people would go and get the popcorn, get a couple of trays, divvy it up a bunch of people, get a refill, and then have extra for the entire movie. But now the food is getting expensive there. You can't bring in your own food. You can't bring in backpacks anymore where you can smuggle stuff in. It's a lot of stuff going on that we used to do. As not only a culture, but just anyone, would go in and do that stuff. And now it's just crazy to me. It's crazy what's happening, but it is what it is. They got to do what they got to do, and we have to figure it out.
And it looks like people are. They're waiting till it comes on streaming, and then it's going crazy. Yeah.
Now, that is what's going on with Batgirl. We have another situation that's going on and that's breaking right now. The Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA and the movie execs have come back to the table. And as of today, this one says the Writers Guild of America said it will return to the negotiating table with Hollywood producers on Wednesday, which is yesterday, as the production shutdown drags on. AMPTP, which represents studios, confirmed in the upcoming negotiations, providing no additional comment. SAG-AFTRA, the actors union, has not yet indicated the time in which they would return to the negotiating table. Now, I saw this morning that they met yesterday, and they also...
I have a note, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, on that, I have a note, an update. Mm-hmm. So, according to what was released after their meeting that happened on yesterday, mm-hmm. The AMPTP, which represents all the studios, mm-hmm. They came to the table to offer 15%. Mm-hmm. The writer's counter has already been drafted at 20%. Mm-hmm. So what happened is they sent them home with this 20% deal. Mm-hmm. So hopefully they'll be able to meet in the middle between hopefully 15 and 20, and we can get this settled. But they said that this meeting was very different than any other meeting because every single head of the studio attended. In prior meetings, they only sent their representatives, mm-hmm. but all of the heads attended this particular meeting.
That's interesting.
So, they said in the Hollywood Reporter that they are desperate. Every studio is desperate to move ahead because the fall season starts.
Yeah.
And nobody is working right now. So they were supposed to start back to work in July.
But didn't I say that if they don't figure this out before the end of this year, it's going to be a massive issue? They're feeling
not just that.
Yeah.
Not just that, mm-hmm. but according to the Hollywood Reporter, I totally forgot the Oscars mm-hmm. is a super well televised event, and the Oscars is off.
Yep.
That's coming up in February, right?
Yeah.
OMG. And all these awards ceremonies as well, the Golden Globes and all.
The Oscars is where the Oscars is movies, any movie, honestly, that's nominated, their biggest advertisement. Because what happens is that when you get nominated for a particular thing, people want to see why you've been nominated and if you're going to win. Of course, we don't get involved in the voting of it, but our opinions do sway some of the members of
Emmy Awards and the Tony.
All of the awards,
everything
like the Grammys, all of them like writers.
They better give them that 20%.
They're gonna have to figure it out.
Because if they came to the table with 15, why can't y'all just do 20 and just call it a day? Get these people back to work.
They have to figure it out. Figure it out.
Oh, one other thing.
Yeah, so
can I add this one other thing about the strike? They said if the strike continues on past October 5th, it will become the longest strike in American history.
Yeah.
I believe that's just for Hollywood. But according to, they've been on strike for a long time right now. This could be the longest strike period in American history.
Yeah, it's been going on for 4 months.
Oh, yeah. Then they said if it passed October 5th, then it will be the longest strike in American history.
Yeah. Now, the longest strike or the longest writer's strike?
It is for Hollywood.
Okay.
Strike that's ever happened in Hollywood.
Yeah. So because it says the longest, how long was the longest writer's strike? And it says it is
Hollywood
longest interruption of American film and television production since the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, as well as the longest labor stoppage that the WGA has performed since the strike of 1988, which lasted 153 days. We're now at 4 months.
Yeah, and then there was a strike in the 60s too. I believe that was the longest, 2 days longer than that one. So it's Hollywood. I have Hollywood underlined. So yeah, wow, that's huge.
Yeah. It's a big deal, and people are like, "Oh, it's not gonna be a big deal. They'll be fine." People don't realize until it starts affecting.
The NASDAQ has been affected already.
Say one more time.
I said the NASDAQ has already been affected. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. I can hear you now.
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
The stock market has already been affected by this strike. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This Hollywood strike, not every strike in the United States, but Hollywood strike.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify that.
It's a mess. It's a mess. But I'm hopeful that these conversations that they're having right now will come to something. I know that a lot of times people are, they're not, for Kayla said, they're not going to be anything on TV. I mean, I feel like that's going to be the case, unfortunately. So I just feel like a lot of the situation is that we just need to kind of get to a point where at least come to some type of compromise.
Well, 2 months ago, remember all the studios said we're not going to give them anything, let them starve.
Right.
Remember?
But now they're
coming with 15%, correct? Because they're scared. They know. Look. People want to see it's getting cold. People go indoors. They want to see everything in the fall. They want to see their favorite shows come back. And nothing is coming back right now. Catrice.
Hey, Catrice. How you doing, Queen? Shout out to Catrice. Cocktail Hour Catrice, who came on last week with on the Unusual Mavericks. We appreciate you, Queen. Yes. So that's just what's been going on with that. That's all the breaking news we got there. Is there anything else that we should be knowing about, or
there's some Marvel
breaking news
as well. I don't know if you want to consider this. Okay, we'll get that into Blerd news. Okay.
Yeah. Let's get into Blerd news. Right on in here. Okay, so I don't know what's going on with my It feels like my thing is slowing down.
Delayed. Yeah. I can hear you. It just seemed like it was delayed.
Okay. I don't know what's going on. Let me try something.
Your sound is weird.
I don't know what's going on. How about now?
Okay, now I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because I lowered it down a little too much. Yeah, I lowered it down a little too much. I apologize. I do have a tendency to talk loud. I'm a New Yorker. Right? I'm a New Yorker. I talk loud. But I just want to make sure I don't raise my voice too much. But yeah, I just reset this. I think we should be fine now.
Okay.
Okay, we should be good.
Okay. So what's the Blerd news?
Let's get into the Blerd news. All right. Cool. All right. Whew. Where are you, girl? All right. So Loki. Let's talk about Loki for a minute. So it looks like, let me get my notes here. Marvel has hired a new host of new writers and directors for their upcoming Phase 6 and 7. And this new crew wants to do their own thing outside of the old MCU line. Will Marvel do a reboot, or old school MCU fans are not happy? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and Marvel's Loki Season 2 gets premiere release slot on Disney+.
Oh, yeah, they get a prime time. They've moved Loki Season 2 to... They're really expecting this to do well for the entire platform because it is struggling to stay alive.
Yeah.
That and Ahsoka for Disney. They are really pushing those series because they're really hoping that the ratings do well, and I believe that they both, or she is, her show's doing well, so they're really hoping for this one. But in regards to Marvel, oh my God, this is crazy! All the new talent that they hire, they fired so many people from their old phases. Remember the whole.
Yeah.
And so people are expecting a continuation of what they set up
Yeah.
after Endgame, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now these new writers that they hired that are coming in to do Blade and hopefully and all of these other films, Captain America and all of these other films, they do not want to stay within the guidelines or the timeline that was given. So, I mean, the one thing I think that really appealed to Marvel fans when the movie started coming out from Iron Man on was the consistency, right, in storyline. So now this universe that everybody's used to is now going to be archived. I don't know how they'll. I see why they want to do this kind of War of the Worlds type of in-game with Loki, the timelines, Deadpool coming together and destroying timelines, because they are very clear about we are not going to follow the pattern that you all gave us. This is gonna, I don't know. What do you all think? Anybody that's diehard Marvel fans, this is going to reset everything. So that means they can bring back Stark. They're going to bring back
allegedly. Is it? Did they confirm this?
They confirmed bringing back Chris Evans. Yes, that was confirmed.
No, I'm saying, did they confirm that they're going to reset everything?
No. What they confirmed is that within the new phases, they're not going to follow the timelines exactly. They're going to do what they want.
That's not a good look. That's not a good look.
Well, they're talking about, of course, this Loki series and then Deadpool and Wolverine destroying all the previous timelines, right? Like right now, Loki's season, his series, period, is about destroying whatever came before.
Yeah.
Because he's dead. He died. He is an aberration. And so I don't know. I don't know. I think it depends on how they write it.
We'll see how it goes.
What are your thoughts?
I think one of the reasons why, especially phase one, why Marvel did so well and why it kind of toppled DC at the time, not just because DC wasn't really building a universe. Well, that's it. They didn't build a universe, a structured universe. Marvel did, and keeping in line with a lot of the timelines and keeping in line with what's going on with the comics. Of course, they deviated in certain areas, but for the most part, we got pretty much what we wanted. And I don't understand where they went with like Invasion, Secret Invasion. That was kind of crazy. It had nothing to do. I mean, it was such a Nick Fury type, which is fine, but it was such a Nick Fury type focused situation that it wasn't Secret Wars.
No.
Just call it Nick Fury Adventures.
Right.
Or the Adventures of Nick Fury, or Nick Fury played by Samuel L. Jackson. Like, just call it that. It had nothing to do with the actual Secret Invasion. So it was really, really weird. It was really weird.
And this may also explain why they decreased the budget for the Marvels, because it's a part of like the old phase. If they have new talent coming in, new directors, new producers, they don't want to do what somebody did before them. They're fresh and new and hot, and they have new ideas. So I think if they end the first saga correctly, which hopefully they'll do that through Loki and destroy everything that we know and do a reset.
All right, have a good evening, Michelle. Thank you for stopping by. No worries. Catch the replay. This is getting scary people out of place because there's no time. That's what I'm saying, Michaela.
Yeah.
That's really, it's good that we're getting fresh new ideas, fresh perspective, but it's also bad because oftentimes what happens is that they come in with new perspective. This is kind of like what happens with when they hire new executives in a corporate entity or a corporate space. They get new executives, they come in and then they wipe out everything that the person has done before instead of building upon. Like kind of like what y'all's favorite president did, Trump. So he came in and completely tried to eradicate everything that Obama built instead of building upon and trying to structure, of course, everybody has their own perspective and their own ways of dealing with things, but you could have built upon what was already there. Marvel had really good bones, so it was just a matter of just readjusting certain things and then expanding upon new stories or whatever. I don't know. It was just not. That team that they had in phase 1 and phase 2 was just and three was a very special team. And that magic is gone now. So I don't know what's gonna happen. And the same with DC. They're going over to DC, so we'll see what happens over there.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Both universes or franchises are doing a reset. So we'll see. We'll see.
All right, y'all. Let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about the amazing, the incomparable Dwayne McDuffie. We'll be right back, y'all. Who that is? Not my baby daddy. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Step away from the chaos and noise of your daily life. Experience moments for yourself that are calm, serene, and full of peace. A necessary respite to foster growth within you, because self-care should be luxurious. Luxe Noir.
In a world filled with diversity, where radical faith and progressive believers come together, there's a place that's breaking all boundary and embracing believers from all walks of life. Bullet and Flight Radio, where believers unite, boundaries break, and love triumphs.
This episode is brought to you by Audible, an Amazon company. Partnering with Audible, an Amazon company, to provide you a 30-day free trial of their Audible Premium Plus subscription for our audience exclusively. You will get 1 free credit, or 2 credits if you're a Prime member, good for any premium selection titles you like, and it's yours to keep. The Audible Plus catalog of podcasts, audiobooks, guided wellness, and Audible originals, listen all you want, no credits needed. And you'll also get a friendly email reminder before your trial ends. To take advantage of this offer, you can click on the link in the comments or use this special QR code by using your mobile device. Audible, an Amazon company. All right, let's get back to the show.
Oh, I think being a writer that the reader knows is black puts a lot of the mainstream, I say mainstream, I mean white readership on edge. I mean white male readership on edge. They're really looking for some proof that I'm trying to, the phrase I get all the time is I'm always trying to shove my agenda down their throat, which seems sexually charged to me. I don't know. And apparently, but I came on to Justice League after a very successful run. And during that run, they had added 2 black members to the team. And it was already planned that 2 more black members would join the team very shortly. So when I came on the book, I was told right up front, bring the Black Green Lantern in, and bring in Firestorm, who's a kind of a young Spider-Man-ish superhero, who's a black college kid. And I'm like, oh, great, okay. And before I knew it, I had broken what I call the rule of three. And that rule is, in popular entertainment, if there are 3 black people in it, it is a black product. You know, you can have 2 black guys, although it's a stretch. If you have 3, it's a black show. And suddenly it was a black show. And somebody, I think the artist did a pinup with all the black characters, and somebody leaked it and said, that's the cover. McDuffie's going to turn the Justice League all black. He's getting rid of the white guys. You know, never a plan, never even considered, but it freaked people out. So they're reading the stuff looking for proof. But there is a hardcore piece of the audience whose back goes up whenever you go into these issues, and they don't even realize it. You know, and what kills me about it is when they're writing about it, they're always hyper rational. You know, look, the fact is there are more white characters, and if you picked randomly, you would end up with all white teams. And the fact that there are 3 black people on this team is statistically ridiculous. I mean, it's obviously a quota. And the quota arguments on fictional teams crack me up, because who's actually, I'm sorry, somebody losing a job here?
We're back.
Woo!
Dwayne McDuffie, that was
Wow.
the incomparable, the amazing Dwayne McDuffie. May he rest in peace. And party in peace up there in heaven. Y'all, we have been talking about amazing Mavericks, specifically Black Mavericks, in the past couple of weeks in this amazing series that Dominic has produced together. In our first Maverick that we looked at was Halim Flowers, and his work that he did and how he changed his life around after being sentenced and went to prison, and he was innocent. It was false charges that was put on him. And then for Richardson, who was the first one. No, she wasn't the first one to win the Eisner Award. Was she? Or was it? Yeah, it was Dr. Sheena Howard. We'll get to her. Then we have Matt Baker, who was allegedly the first LGBTQ. we debate on that. We can't say that he wasn't out, so he never confirmed that. But you know, hey Matt, but he contributed to. And then Dr. Sheena Howard, who was who was the first Black woman to receive a Eisner Award, which is comparable in the comic world as a Oscar. And then the second woman of color to win a Eisner Award was Aletha Martinez. And that's where Catrice joined in last week with us, and we talked about her. So today we're talking about who is Dwayne McDuffie. Now, I'm a geek. Okay.
Yeah, you got
Dominic is a geek, and when I tell you that this is one of our favorite people because he created some of our most favorite characters and series of all time, I just can't even. I'm about to fan out right now. Do you want to talk about? Do you want to introduce him before?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
We'll talk about him just a little bit. As you saw the video at the top of this segment, that was the late great Dwayne McDuffie, who was speaking on racism, sexism, and homophobia within graphic novels, or as we call it, the comic book industry, the multi-billion-dollar industry. He is one of the founders of Milestone Comics. He created the character Static Shock, as we know, and a lot of characters within that universe. Very popular. He worked on Monica Rambeau, who we talked about, the Marvels. Dwayne McDuffie is that guy. Never won an Eisner. I looked it up, and he was never even nominated for one. Unfortunately, he was a little ahead of his time. You know, he was in the early, throughout the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. He passed away, of course, by 2011, I believe. Bad heart, just a genetic defect. But regardless to that, with all the great work that he did, he was never nominated for an Eisner Award. And I believe it's because he really pushed, as you heard in that interview that he did. It was a very unpopular interview amongst, the white cis hetero male population. It made them very uncomfortable. Everything he said, from you talking about shoving stuff down my throat and all, he really challenged how they viewed sexuality, feminism, and racism. So Dwayne did a lot of great work during his time. So Dwayne McDuffie is the half sibling, get this, of Keegan Michael Key. You all know him, right? This is his. That's right. This is his half brother. Dwayne McDuffie was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. Shout out to Detroit. And he is best known, of course, for being one of the co-founder of Milestone Comics. Of course, he worked on and within DC Comics, and he produced just a lot of work for a DC. But within the animation universe, he helped create and produce, as you heard him talking about, the Justice League.
Yes.
He helped produce the Justice League animation series, which is a classic series today. He also worked as a principal in the Justice League Unlimited series,
which is probably one of my favorites.
He worked on Teen Titans, the classic series. He worked on Ben 10, I know, outside of the DC Marvel universe. But he did a lot of great things. But before he went to DC, he was at Marvel. And he worked, his first job at Marvel, he got hired as an assistant editor way back in the early 80s. And he started working on a series called Damage Control. For anyone who's ever heard of that series, Damage Control, for Marvel Comics, that was one of the first series that he ever started working on. He was so talented. He was so gifted as an editor, as a writer, that he quickly got promoted. And so he was in New York City, moved to New York City to start and really dedicate his life to his career within Marvel Comics at the time in the early 80s. Within that time, he worked on Monica Rambeau. He really wanted to bring her to life. She already existed, but he started writing for the character and including her, since she was technically the first female Captain Marvel. And so he really made a lot of headway, but he only still got paid the salary of an assistant. And they were really taking his work, but he couldn't. So the first thing that he did when he went over to, get this, now old school cartoon lovers know what I'm talking about. The first series he worked on and started writing for was Super Friends. Y'all remember that Super Friends in the morning?
I remember the reruns. I wasn't alive during that time when it first came out.
Yes, you weren't there alive when it first came out. I wasn't even alive when it first came out, but I was alive during its run. And he created the character Firestorm. The two people who become one. That was him who brought that character in, and all the cool things that he did. That was his start into animation, which was really cool. And a lot of us grew up with Super Friends as children. So that was one of the first things that he did. And of course, we talked about Static Shock. We talked about Justice League Unlimited, Ben 10, Teen Titans, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? He even worked on that series as well, for those that love Scooby-Doo. And I mean Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? The classic series. So he worked on all of those classic series within his early years. And then when he really, really started to take off, or in the 2000s, after Justice League Unlimited wrapped, he really started doing movies within Warner Brothers Animation. And he did a great movie, guys. Check this out. It's called Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. It's a really good movie. James
Y'all don't
Gunn.
even know. Y'all don't even know.
James Gunn has said that his inspiration for his Superman that is coming into the DC universe right now, James Gunn, is a movie that Dwayne McDuffie wrote called All-Star Superman. That's another really good movie as well. And then one of my favorite movies that he did was Justice League Doom, which was, I believe, his last movie. He passed away, I believe, towards the end when the movie wrapped. They have a little dedication to him. But Justice League Doom was a really, really good movie. And he was in place to become Walter Amada.
Yeah. And he should have been.
And if he was alive today, who knows what he would be over.
Oh, I guarantee you right now, if he was alive today, DC would actually overtake Marvel. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, Jim Lee, who is over the animation for all the animation movies, all the DC movies that are really, really dope, right? Jim Lee is over that. He said that he took Dwayne's job. And as we see, Dwayne was already producing and writing these 3 movies, 2010, 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
He was just amazing.
Yeah.
Also, within this time, this is news too that I didn't even tell you. Okay, so I need to tell you now. This is breaking. Mark Hamill, who voiced the Joker, Mark Hamill from Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, he said that he is retired from ever playing the Joker. Why?
What?
Because 2 things. One of his good friends passed away. His best friend, Kevin Conroy, and Dwayne McDuffie. After you can't take the writer and then the voice of Batman and then leave. He's like, I'm done. No matter what, I won't come back. So that's in related news to Dwayne McDuffie. A lot of people really cared for him and what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
So
now I wanted to point out something. I don't know if you guys remember, but when I told you one of my first Black comics that I read, I said was Black Panther, and then I stopped myself and I said no, there was a character that I had seen before I ever saw Black Panther. Now, Black Panther was very prominent in my comic book life, and that's why I swayed over to Marvel. Because remember, and I want to kind of tell you guys the timeline of it. I was always, obviously, Superman was introduced to me first, and then I was in Supergirl based off of the movies, and then my brothers introduced me to their comics. Well, yeah, my second oldest brother introduced me to his comics and his trading cards and stuff like that. And so I started looking at the comics, and I was like, oh, these are pretty. And then I got a little older, and I was reading them, and I was like, oh, this is a story. Now, my very first, and I actually, I don't really talk to my dad, but I have to actually commend him on this because he saw this comic, and if you look on the very left hand side, that was my first. Well, not this actual one. It was actually issue 1 of Hardware. That was the first real Black superhero that I was introduced to. Now, I know I was a kid, and some people probably were like, oh, well, that and that comic was a little graphic. That was too graphic for, a young kid for me. But I got to see a Black superhero, and he was kind of like a Black Iron Man. So before Iron Man was Iron Man, he was his storyline and how he built his suit and all the stuff, whatever, and trying to fight crime and the chemicals that he had to use to become super strong. That was Hardware, and I was so enthralled in that comic for months, and in that comic series because I just was so enthralled by, probably because he had a lot of muscles, but also because of the fact that in all seriousness, because he was Black and because I got to see his storyline and I just was so enthralled in it. And then to find out that Black Panther exists in that whole world, that was really dope to me. But I saw this and I was like, I couldn't remember at the time that we were talking about it who it was and what the and I still have the comic in my mom was just telling me a couple of weeks ago that she had was cleaning up in some of my stuff or whatever, and she put all of my comics in a certain space. And she said, "They're going to be money. That's like a retirement fund for me because I got a lot of first issues, first number ones, and issue number one. Y'all know those.
And the writer is gone, right?
And the writer's gone. So, and this is Milestone Media. You know, a lot of those comics, the original issues, are not there anymore. You know, and so it's this whole. I don't think he realized, like, if he was here today, I would definitely want to, you know, send him a letter or talk to him or interview him and tell him how much he impacted my life as a Black nerd. There wasn't a lot of nerds, at least Black nerds in my area, at least the ones that I connected with, where you know, I got to see myself or people like me in comics. It was always Superman and Batman, and they were always the smartest ones and the strongest ones, and you couldn't do anything without Wonder Woman or Batman or the big three, and none of them looked like us, you know. And then when Static came, I was like, oh, he's a teenager like me.
Static really broke the mold.
Yeah,
I mean, he's still making money, and they're supposed to be doing. James Gunn said that he wants to include Static Shock over Black Lightning. In his universe. So first I was like, well, I want to see Black Lightning. And then when he said Static Shock, I said, oh. I mean, their power scale, their power levels, everything is pretty much the same with the two of them. So I was like, okay, I'll take Static. But it's so sad that Dwayne passed away at the tender age of 49.
Yeah.
He had complications due to an emergency heart surgery. And he passed away, unfortunately. Leaving behind a wife and some kids.
It's just a huge legacy that he and a lot of people, unless you are in the comic book world, you don't know how much of a major impact he made. Like, it wasn't like, I mean, listen, I'm not knocking any of the kings and queens that we talked about in our previous segments, but Dwayne McDuffie is that dude. He is the person that made major shockwaves in the industry for not just Black culture, but Black LGBTQIA plus culture too. He was a huge advocate for us, and this is during a time when conservatism and during a time where racism was predominant. And of course, we know that it's still alive and well. We're not saying that it's not, but there's a lot more space here for us to kind of have conversations about LGBTQIA than it was back then.
Yeah, he was talking about it when Reagan was in office.
Yeah.
He was talking about this when the first Bush was in office.
The first Bush.
Yeah, this is the time when he was the most active, and the Clinton years as well.
Yeah.
You know, those were the presidents, the three presidents that he was the most active during. And I cannot let anybody forget that we all, as children, I'm sure everybody watch Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? At least once on a Saturday morning.
Yep.
And to know that he wrote several episodes, to know that he wrote episodes of Super Friends.
Yeah.
You know, that's how early he goes back in some of our development and seeing some diversity. We saw diversity in Super Friends. We saw Black characters, and it was because of him.
And let's talk about the introduction of Black characters. Having a Black Green Lantern was a big deal for me. You know what I'm saying?
And you heard what he said, to have more than one Black character. And when he turned this guy or decided to use Jon Stewart, look at all the pushback that he got within Warner Brothers.
Yeah. It was crazy.
You're trying to turn this into a Black, all of that silliness.
Yeah.
And like he said, who's losing a job?
Yeah. Yeah. So we thank you, Dwayne McDuffie, for all that you've done. Your legacy is going to continue to move on, to go on. I'm going to continue to advocate your name and advocate what you've done and take the mantle. All of us Black nerds who know what you've done for the community, what you've done for Black nerddom, what you've done for the comic book world will not go unnoticed, will not go silent. So we thank you for bringing so much to the culture, for bringing so much to Black nerddom, and just keeping, paving the way for movies like Wakanda Forever, Vixen, all of these characters that would never have had a chance to even be noticed. We get Monica Rambeau, Naomi, all of these different, characters that, just because of the hard work that you put in, it was even a thought to even have a forward-facing Black character, Storm, all of these different things, just having these spaces. I'm not saying that he created all these characters, but the work that he laid down, the work that he pushed, the fight that he had against these two major powers, DC and Marvel, because listen, none of them are innocent. They assimilated Milestone Media, and what would have happened if Milestone Media maintained its integrity, maintained its anonymity, maintained its individualism, and was able to grow and flourish? It probably would have taken Marvel and DC out of the water.
Well,
But
for a few years, they were outselling both Marvel and DC. That's why DC bought them.
Yeah.
So, and I just want to say, on my way to elementary school every morning, I passed by his house. I had to pass by his street and pass by his house every day during elementary school. I didn't know who he was. I mean, he wasn't. Well, if I was in elementary school, then yeah, I guess he was working and doing his thing there. But how would anybody know?
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm doing this show today is because of Dwayne McDuffie.
Yeah. And the reason why the Unusual Mavericks was even thought of, and why we felt like Black voices and within the nerd world, within Black geekdom, if you will, needed to be spoken out about, was because of Dwayne McDuffie. He's a pioneer in this. So thank you.
And never got recognized, right? And never got an Eisner. Never got nominated. Nothing.
It's sad. Now, of course, we honor those that have gotten the Eisner. We honor Dr. Sheena Howard. We honor, Helene Flowers. We honor, Matt Baker. And Aletha Martinez, and all of those that have paved the way. But nobody really acknowledged Dwayne McDuffie, that paved the way for everyone, that laid the foundation down. And I think that that's sad. And I think that, hopefully this is a conversation that is spread out throughout all of Black nerddom. And the conversation and information on him, is spread out. So that way, maybe he can get an honorary situation. His family is still alive. Maybe they can honor them, and give it to him, just the work. If you guys really understood, DC and Marvel wouldn't be here without him.
No, and we all know his brother.
Yeah. So
give it to his brother.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's gonna do it for us, y'all. Sorry we went on a tangent, but this is a big deal for us because Dwayne McDuffie was everything.
And we want to encourage people to watch his work.
Yeah.
Tell people where they can find it, Kwame.
So you can go ahead and find this stuff on literally anywhere. But you can go to Max. That's where most of his stuff is. I think obviously Cartoon Network for super fans and Scooby-Doo and all stuff, whatever. But that's all on Max. But really, you can find everything on Max because DC has done a great job at consolidating everything and creating a what do you call it?
Suppository.
Thank you. Or repository rather. For all of his stuff. So definitely go there. We also have a website. The DC Universe. Dwayne McDuffie. Let's see here. Let me pull it up here. Hold on. I want to make sure you guys have it so I can put it in the comments. Where are you, girl? I'll make sure it's in Patreon. Oh yeah, this is.
You're gonna do this milestone.
Go to DC Comics. About media. Okay, definitely check that out. Do it all there. Go there. You can find all of the stuff there. So definitely we'll make sure that we put all of that information in for you guys, and also in some of the description in here. So definitely go and you can just Google Dwayne McDuffie. I mean, he's everywhere.
Yeah.
He's that dude. It's really not that hard to find Dwayne McDuffie. So, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know we ran a little bit late, but thank you for rocking with us. We appreciate you guys. Do us a huge favor. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Subscribe and share. And also hit that text button. And by typing Blaze or texting Blaze to 833-793-2423. Again, that's 833-793-2423. 23. Thank you so
That's
much for
right.
listening over on Bullet and Flight Radio. We appreciate you and all of the Pyromaniacs. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for all that you do.
And
Dominic,
if
you
the
got
spirit leads you, tip by all means. You have our cash app. Please tip.
Yes.
We are truly giving you edumacation. Real
Edumacation, honey.
edumacation.
Yes, if you feel so inclined, go ahead and send a cash app over at Kwame C86 or to Dominic at Dominic L. Pruitt. Okay?
Yes. And all I have to do is say, stay unusual.
Stay
That's
unusual,
all I'm
y'all.
saying.
That's all I'm
Stay
saying.
unusual.
All right, y'all. Have a blessed one. We'll see you on the other side. Bye.